Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where in the world you are watching. Welcome back to Afternoons with Aces, presented by Tom Simkus and Lee Briggs. This is the fourth of several presentations we will be giving over the coming weeks and months in our cloud reporting series. Today we have a short but important topic on understanding the SmartView and Essbase ribbons and the functions available for each. This session is important and may be watched in conjunction with our prior session, which we covered connecting to SmartView, and our upcoming session, which we will talk about using SmartView for ad hoc analysis. So we have a pretty tight agenda today. We'll go through some introductions of Lee Briggs and myself. We'll talk very briefly about connecting to SmartView, not nearly as detailed as we did in our last session, but we will have a quick overview. We will then talk about the SmartView options and the Essbase options. Let's get to introductions. Lee, over to you. Lee, you want to do an introduction?
Absolutely, Tom. Thank you. My name is Lee Briggs. I've been working with the Oracle applications for the best part of 25 years. I've worked with EBS for the first 12 years of that, and for the last 13 years, pretty much since Oracle cloud has been available generally, I've been working with cloud. I am the Cloud ERP Team Director here at Creo, now an SMX company. I am an Oracle Ace. I got my Oracle Aceness in 2013. I started as an Ace Associate. I'm now an Ace Pro. I've been an Ace Pro for 8 years, I think. And I am the first Star Presenter of the Year award winner, awarded from OATUG. That was in 2014.
Oh, thanks, Lee. My name is Thomas Simkus. I am the Commercial and SLED Practice Director for Creo Consulting, now an SMX company. I've been with Creo since 2017. I have my Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Business Administration from Ursinus College, and I got my JD from the James A. Beasley School of Law of Temple University. I've been working with Oracle for the better part of 25 years. Started out as an end user when I was a staff accountant at a company called Real Treatment Centers, and they implemented Oracle, and I liked it so much I decided to get into consulting, and I've been doing it for the most part ever since. I'm also an Oracle Ace. I got my Ace in 2014, 1 year after Lee. As another side note, Lee and I have worked together through various companies for the better part of 22 years. So Lee is generally referred to in our small circle as the first Ace, and I am always referred to as the second Ace. I am also the OETUG Star Presenter of the Year Award winner in 2017, again after Lee got his.
Okay, so let's go through connecting to an instance. And again, we covered this in our last session, session 3. Let's go through connecting to an instance. So we have launched Excel in the top bar there. We're selecting our SmartView menu in our ribbon, and we're going to go to Panel. As soon as we click on Panel, you're going to get that little pop-up window that's showing in the graphic there, where you can pick your shared connection or your private connection. Now, everything we're talking about in today's session is equally used in shared connections or private connections. So we've gone with our shared connections out there. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to get to the next page. So as soon as you try connect, it's going to connect to that URL that you had out there. So if you're connected to Dev, it's going to try and connect you to Dev. And it is going to force you to log on again. Now, if you have single sign-on, your single sign-on is still going to work here. Nothing to worry about that. We're going to put in our username and password. Then you're going to get the graphic on the left to show up. It's going to have your shared connections, and it's going to show the servers that you can connect to. So we're going to look for our Oracle Essbase connection. As soon as you connect that, it's going to have the server you're going to connect to. So we're connecting to the Essbase FA cluster. We're going to select that, which is our financial accounting cluster. As soon as we get there, we now get a list of all the cubes that are available to us. So we talked a little bit about this in section 1, in the first session we had. We're talking about our chart of accounts, how we get those set up. Each of the different cubes you get is primarily based upon the chart of accounts you have out there. So in this particular connection that we're connecting to here, you can see that there were two underneath the Essbase FA cluster. There were two charts we could connect it to. For those of you who are going to try and zoom in on this graphic, you're not going to see anything. Good luck trying. You're not going to see who that connection is. We're going to expand that. You'll then see a database underneath that. You're going to select the database, and you're going to click on Ad hoc Analysis as we've got in the center graphic. That's connected. We're now connected to that cube for Essbase. Tom, do you want to go through some of the SmartView options that you typically set up as soon as the first time you're connecting there?
Sure will. Thanks, Lee. So before you connect to the environment, the only ribbon that will be available in Excel or in Outlook or in PowerPoint or in Word is going to be the SmartView ribbon. So under SmartView, you have a fair amount of options. You've got your panel, you can review your connections, but you really can't do much until you're connected. Under the ribbon, let's see what we have. So if you click on that SmartView ribbon and then click on Options, that's going to give you a screen. And I apologize, I know the screenshots are relatively small, but we're trying to fit a fair amount of information on one page. So once you click on Options, you have some different member options that you can utilize. So under member name, you've got a couple different things that you can do. First thing you do is you can show distinct member name. So this only shows the full distinct member name. It kind of is a grouping and concatenation of them together. If you show the member name and alias, that's going to show the member name with the description. And then finally, you can just show the member name only. So what I want to stress out is in Essbase, the member names have to be unique. And the descriptions or the values have to be unique as well. There is an option within Oracle Cloud ERP that you can check that will automatically concatenate the member name as the member value with the member name. So for example, if your chart of accounts value is 1,000 and your description is cash, if you check that profile option in ERP, in Essbase, the description will actually appear as 1,000-cash. And that's a good shortcut if you want to ensure that your member names are distinct. I am not a big fan of doing that. And the reason is I'll kind of get a little bit ahead of myself. We're going to talk about building reports to FRS. I like using my member name description as my values on my financial statements rather than typing them in. And the reason I like to do that is because if I maintain my member name, my member description in ERP, it flows into my reports and it's kind of less maintenance. If you concatenate those together using that profile option, the reports do not look very attractive.
Now, initially, when you first implement a Cloud General Ledger, that profile option is set to yes. So Oracle is automatically saying you're going to have a duplicate in there. I'm going to concatenate those together. One of the things you're looking to do as you start moving through this series, start going through your implementation, is getting rid of those dupes yourself so you can have your report showing cash. To Tom's example, rather than 1,000 cash.
When you're building your ad hoc analysis, and again, you'll see this in our next session, I recommend you do not have member name and alias showing. And the reason is even if you are selecting only a single member in your columns, like for example, if you have account in column A, you're doing an ad hoc analysis. If you select member name and alias, it will actually populate both A and B. Column A will have your value, and column B will have your member name or your description if you're using Oracle ERP. And that's great, and it shows that once the report's built, I actually like doing that a lot because it makes the report a lot easier to use. But when you're building and you're dragging and dropping, it can get very kludgy very quickly. So my recommendation is when you're building your reports, have it show that distinct member name or the member name only. And then when you get a layout that you're happy with, you can always change it to member name and alias, do a refresh, and then your data will come back as you like. Some additional options under the member options is your zoom in level. This allows the default for when you click your zoom, and we'll see the zoom, some of it in the ad hoc analysis, but we'll also see it in a few slides. When you have data in SmartView, there are buttons up on the top of your screen that you can use to zoom in on data if you are clicked on a dimension value. So for example, if I have it set to zoom to the next level and your value in your account tree is T, the next level down under T may be assets, liabilities, owner's equity. So you might have 3 values there. If you zoom to all levels, what will happen is you'll go to the next level. So in the use case I just went through, you had T and then you had assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. You would go to the next parent level below those values. So below assets, it would also include current assets, long-term assets, etc.
So blow everything out down to the child level from the parent and every level in between from the parent down all the way down to the ultimate descendant you could possibly have, right?
Correct. And then your last option is bottom level. And what that does is that will go from T all the way down to all of the children, the lowest level below T. So that can be handy, but if you're not used to it, and if you have a very large set of values, it can really take up a lot of time. And I will say, and I do love SmartView, but if you're a new user, it is certainly wonky. And what do you mean by that is if you're picking a lot of values back, or if you do a lot of functions, it can take Excel quite a while to catch up and keep up, and you will think that you've crashed Excel, and a lot of times you can. So when you're working with SmartView, my advice is always to save early and save often. We talked about the member name display already. Another option that is important is the indentation. So how you want the hierarchies displayed. You can have them indented, you can have them as sub items or totals. I prefer to have them indented so that it looks like if you click on T and you go to the next level, assets, liabilities, and earnings equity, continuing the use case we've been using, they'll be indented slightly. So you can see each parent and children and grandchildren, and they're very nicely indented. And then, of course, we've got the ancestor position. By default, the ancestors will display at the bottom. If you want them to display at the top, that is what you would want. So if you click on a drill and you have the ancestor at the top, the sum total of that will display, and then your children will display below it. Whereas if you have it at the bottom, you'll have all your child values, and then you'll have a sum total display at the bottom. And that's generally the way I prefer to have it, is at the bottom.
Yep. Now, one of the things to bear in mind as we're going through this session here, SmartView is a tool that is used by EPM and ERP. EPM has every piece of functionality you see in SmartView. ERP has limited functionality. So as you're going to go through this, you're going to say, hey, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. You'll see that a lot, and that could be a EPM has it available. ERP doesn't make it available yet.
Thanks, Lee.
Welcome.
Okay, member retention. So really what this relates to is when you drill on something, do you want to keep the member that you drilled, or do you want it to be replaced? Okay, so again, using our use case, if you drill down on assets and you keep it, you drill down, if you say retain that member, assets will be there, and then the children below it would be below it or above it, depending on how you want your ancestors to appear. If you say don't retain it, or retention is no, assets would disappear and would be replaced by only the children that are below it. There is no right or wrong for how you want to do it. It is really entirely up to you and how you like the functionality. Great thing about SmartView, it is completely personalizable. You've also got this within selected group. That is important for using ad hoc analysis. Keep only and remove only. So what that functionality allows you to do is if you have a lot of values that you have drilled down on, you can use that keep only functionality. So using our use case, if you've got T and then assets, liabilities, and earnings equity, if I click on assets and I say remove only, it would only remove assets from that list of values, and all the other ones would go away. If I clicked on assets and said remove only, does exactly what it says. It would remove assets from those lists, and it would only show T and then liabilities and owner's equity. And then you've got remove unselected group. Again, that relates to the zoom, similar functionality. So a lot of these things are really good for you guys to play with, but it's pretty basic functionality and it's pretty useful.
So let's take a look at the next option. So we talked through some of the retention stuff there. Now we're going on to the data options tab, where we're talking about suppression and replacement. And again, to Tom's point, there is no right or wrong answer to this. A lot of this is what are you looking for in the analysis you're doing at this present time. So the first part, the section we have there is suppress rows. So in the data options, I've gone to suppress rows. And this is literally saying, if you see a row which is 0, the entire row is 0, do you want to see it or not? Again, no right or wrong answer. If I'm doing some kind of analysis for revenue and my entire revenue is 0, I want to see that that's revenue because that's really important to me. Same kind of scenario if I'm looking at revenue and for a specific product line or a natural account for revenue, which is a tiny part of my revenue at 0. Yeah, I probably want to see it. I'm not so worried about that. So we have that ability to suppress it. And again, it's suppressing it. It's not getting rid of the data. Sorry, it's not deleting anything out of the system. It's just saying, yeah, there is 0 here. Don't worry about showing it. The other option you have there is if there is no data out there or if the data is missing. So let's in the scenario we have out here, I create a new revenue account today and I look at analysis from yesterday. That account did not exist yesterday. There were no balances yesterday. It is missing. Do you want to show it or do you not want to show it? In my case, for missing, yeah, I probably don't care about it because if it was missing, probably don't care about it. If it was 0, I may care about it. In conjunction with that, we have a section for replacements. So replacements is saying if it is missing, it will show you as # missing or hashtag missing, whichever one your generation starts using. It'll actually show that. Do you want to? You can say still show it, but show 0. So the top section was saying get rid of the entire row. If the entire row is not 0, so you're looking at a few columns and one of the columns isn't 0, do you want it to show as missing? Do you want to show it as 0? Same thing for if you don't have access to it. If you've got GL security turned on, you don't have access to anything. Do you want to show it as you don't have access? Do you want to show it as 0? Those are the options we have out there. So again, it's neat functionality. There is no right or wrong answer for it. It is what you're looking for in the analysis in that particular time.
Okay, thanks, Lee. We're going to talk a little bit about formatting on the next couple slides. The formatting is important to note that in Essbase, you can do some different things if you're using EPM. You really can't do a lot with formatting in Cloud ERP. So typically speaking, the default value of use cell styles is not super meaningful. What I will typically do is I will check the use Excel formatting. Bear in mind the way that the use Excel formatting works. This is really critical because I see a lot of customers do it. They'll do an ad hoc analysis and they'll have data in 3 or 4 cells. And they'll format those cells with dollar signs or currency. And then they'll expand the report or the query to include additional data. And the 4 or 5 cells that they formatted maintain the formatting, but when they expand it, it doesn't move. It doesn't go with the rest of the data. The other data is unformatted. So what the Excel formatting is for is you can either format the rows or format the columns, or you can wait till the report is done. But once all of the area that you are going to include is included, if you click on formatting and say use Excel formatting, it does maintain, right? So the nice thing about that is if you're doing a drill down or if you're doing an analysis and drilling up and back, as your report changes, the formatting does stick with you. So if you're using Cloud ERP, you want to use that Excel formatting. All right, so styles. Styles are available only when you're connected. And generally speaking, you're going to want to select the styles under what is called Essbase and member cells. And essentially what you have is if you have attributes, again, in Cloud ERP, you do not. You do not have attributes. Attributes are something that is only available within EPM. We don't have dynamic calcs. We don't have conditional formats. We don't have shared members. Really. We do have children. We do have parents. We do have duplicate members. And you got members that can be drilled through. When you're starting to use the application, it really is helpful to have different formatting. So I will typically have my parents highlighted one color so that I know it's a parent. And then I can have my children, which means the lowest level children are a different format. Under the drill through, those cells that are highlighted, you can have it formatted so that if it's a drill through cell, meaning if you are doing an analysis on GL balances, as you must be because you're using ERP, Essbase, and that's what the cube is. If those values are drillable, you can have them highlight in an individual color. If you're using this to create reports, when I say create reports, meaning you do not want to use FRS, you're using this to do your board package, the formatting in here is probably not as useful. You're probably going to be using Excel formatting to do a really whiz-bang looking report. I will tell you in my experience, most folks that use Essbase for financial reporting or SmartView for financial reporting, what they do is they'll create a lead sheet with a really compact and clean looking, heavily formatted Excel sheet, and they use like VLOOKUPs or XLOOKUP to pull the data in from the SmartView tab. Now, it's SmartView, so you're connected to the environment. You can certainly do that. I am a big proponent of not doing that. We will get to FRS later on, and we're certainly going to do some ad hoc analysis in the next session, but You can do a lot of great formatting and a great using report books, using FRS. So if you're really doing heavily formatted reports, not my recommended approach. If you're doing some ad hoc analysis and reporting books, and you will see that in our next session, you can use Excel functionality in conjunction with SmartView. So if you're using your Excel formatting in conjunction with this formatting here, you can put charts in here, you can put ribbons, you can put graphs, so you can really create a really nice report using this tool. And I'd highly recommend you play with it. But those options that we're showing here, I tend to set those again for my newer SmartView users so they can understand what is a parent, what is a child, what you can drill on. And then once they get good, they tend to clear the formatting. Lee, any comments or questions on that?
I don't think so. Like in the training I've had, I always have really bright neon colors out there, and it's never something I would actually use as a report. It is you see cyan anywhere, it's a clickable thing. You can drill down on it. It's blindingly obvious. The other thing is the formatting you have there for those member cells isn't just for your chart of accounts. So if you're doing analysis at a year level, so we've got accounting period as one of your segments. If you look at a year is a parent. A year is a parent because it's made up of 4 quarters. A quarter is a parent. It's made up of 3 months, however many months you're going to have out there. So it's that functionality is inherited by every dimension in your chart of accounts, which can have that.
Thanks, Lee. All right, let's talk a little about the Essbase options. These options are only available once you have connected to a database. So as you go through, as you notice, I have an Essbase ribbon up top there. It is next to Help, which is next to SmartView. If you are launching Excel and you only see the SmartView ribbon, you will only see the SmartView ribbon because you are not yet connected to an environment. Okay? So you have some analysis tabs on here. You have some data tabs on here. You can do a lot of different things. I would think the biggest things that you would want to note on the SmartView ribbon and the Essbase ribbon is you've got that refresh button. The refresh button is in the center of the screen. It's right next to the icon that says POV. That is what you can use to bring back data once you have filled in all the criteria necessary to bring data back. One thing I want to highlight now, and we will highlight this again in the upcoming session on the ad hoc analysis, on the SmartView ribbon, there is a SmartView undo button. That is different than the Microsoft Office undo button. They do not do the same things once you are connected. If you make a mistake, and what I mean by mistake is you fill a value in wrong and you break the SmartView connection, or more importantly, you set it such that you don't get any data back, the best thing to do is use the SmartView undo to revert back to a time when you did have data.
Now, there is also in that the similar concept to the SmartView undo is a SmartView redo. So you can go back and forward, toggling through the things you've previously done just to get back to the same part. But yeah, very critical part out there. The other thing just to mention about that refresh, the one that Tom said is out there, because you are live connected to a live instance, your analysis is real time. So a lot of times I will see folks trying to do their reconciliation for accounts payable, accounts receivable, whatever account it is. Okay, prepaid expenses. Okay, I see a number. Hey, Bob, did you put that journal in? No, go put the journal in. Hit refresh. As soon as that journal's posted and you hit refresh, those numbers will be updated. So you're not expecting Excel to update in real time. It is updated in real time as you refresh it.
Okay, thanks, Lee. And just to point out on this screenshot, you can see on the left-hand side there is that zoom in and zoom out, keep only and remove only. Those are the options we were talking about under that SmartView ribbon. All right, so here I've got a reasonably good screenshot. This is a fairly old screenshot. And this is actually from documentation that I created probably about 15 years ago when I did a SmartView training class on an on-premise SmartView application. But the buttons have, for the most part, not changed, and the functionality hasn't changed, which is kind of the cool thing about Essbase and SmartView. So I will not go through and read through all these. I think most of them are self-explanatory. But this video will be available for rewatching. If you're not watching us live, it will be posted to the Oracle Afternoons with Aces YouTube channel. It will also be available at the Creel SMX website. And it'll also be available for dissemination if you guys want it. You can always put your email in the chat or in the questions. We do have questions at the end, which we will try to answer. But if you do put your email in, the host of this webinar will get them to you. All right. So the point of view, what does the point of view do? We talked about that 2 slides ago. Essentially, when you are putting in your ad hoc analysis, by default, when you connect to Cloud ERP, the accounting period will default to position A3, I'm pretty sure. And all the other dimensions will default into cells B1 through whatever else it happens to be. When you're creating an analysis, you may not want all of those dimensions in your analysis. You might want a little bit more flexibility to drag and drop things and make it a little more compact. If you click on that point of view, it gives you the ability to do that and drag and drop the order of your dimensions and the way you want them to show, whether it's a point of view dimension, a page level dimension, or a column dimension. So it allows you to do that, and it also allows you to do a little bit of filtering. And that is the main point of the POV button. A couple things you can do. You can make that POV available by clicking on the POV button in the Essbase ribbon. You can drag that POV floating box if you want. So by default, it's going to set up to be floating kind of in the middle of your Excel screen. You can drag that POV icon so that it is either on the right-hand side as a kind of a table on the side of your Excel screen, or you can drag it to the top right below the function area within your Excel button so it shows up and is viewable there. So you can drag it to the top, you can drag it to the side. You can move it from the toolbar. You can move members or dimensions. Now the POV is a little bit sensitive. In order to move things from the POV toolbar into an ad hoc analysis, you need to click on the caret, the drop-down arrow on the right-hand side. Click and hold, and then drag it into your analysis to the place that you want it. It does take a fair amount of practice. What I typically will do with my POVs is I will drag it into my spreadsheet, and then I will use the pivot button. And we'll talk a lot more about pivot when we do ad hoc analysis, but I will use the pivot to get it into the appropriate location on the form to do the analysis that I am trying to accomplish. All right, we talked a little about zoom in and zoom out. So you got that icon. We can do the next level, all that data, all levels. It's going to blow everything out. And then, of course, you got the bottom level, and that will remove all the lowest members, and it's just going to bring in your children. When you zoom in out on a page, so if you try to zoom in on a year, it's actually going to pivot it to a row, right? So if you try to zoom in on year, by default, it pivots it to a row and blows it out. It kind of looks a little bit crazy. So again, if you're trying to do some different things, you want to make sure it's not at a page, it's at a column level, so that if you zoom in on year rather than moving it to a row, if the year is in a column dimension, it'll actually add 4 additional columns, and it'll zoom to the next level down, which is a quarter, as Lee said. And then if you double click or drill in on a quarter, it will drill down to the next level, which typically happens to be months.
So now with the last screen we're going to take a look at is just going through some of those options we talked about. So pivot will move stuff between the 3 areas. I'll move it between the point of view, the columns, and the rows. So you can pivot from the point of view, drop it to the row, pivot to a column, pivot from the column to the point of view. Really handy when you're doing your analysis for, hey, I want to look at that and spread that over. That would be what the pivoting is for, and that is sitting on the Essbase ribbon. We talked about the undo and redo, so that is within your ad hoc analysis. That is Essbase undo and SmartView undo and SmartView redo. That helps you keep all that kind of that data there, but it's backing out through your SmartView transactions you've gone through. Now there is an option for changing the number of undos and redos you can do. By default, it is 9 transactions that you can undo and redo. I think you can go up to 15. The minimum you can do is 0. Why you would ever set it to 0 is beyond me, but you could do that. Last one we have out there is keep only and remove only. So when you're looking at data, you can start saying, again, if I'm looking at a monthly income statement or something, and so I've got my 12 months across the page, I can say just keep this month. It'll get rid of the other 13 months. The other 11 months. If I hit remove only, it would remove that month and keep the other 11 months out there. So that functionality is awesome functionality. Again, no right or wrong way for using it. It's what are you trying to do, and that will and you'll get those results. I think that is everything we're looking to cover in this session. In the next session that we have out there, we are going to be going through some ad hoc analysis. We're actually going to start using this functionality within the application, so you can build an ad hoc analysis out there. Tom, do you see any questions in the chat window?
I see one. I think somebody's being a little snarky. It's okay. So they're asking, when are we going to get to actually using the tool?
Never. No, not going to do it.
And as Lee said, the next session that we have planned is doing ad hoc analysis in the tool. I will say we broke it up the way that we broke it up. The last session that we did was just connecting, and this session is just going over the options. We kind of broke it up that way, and that's really the number of questions that we get, whether it's in tickets or it's from clients, is really some of these basic blocking and tackling questions. They have the tool, they saw their consultants connect to it, but the consultant never showed them how to connect to it. So we typically will spend 15, 20 minutes, which is about what I think the last session was, just showing people how to connect. And then, invariably speaking, we get a number of questions. I drill down and it brings back all my values and they get frustrated, or I don't know what's drillable and I don't know what my parents are and I get confused. So, just spending the time and going through these options is really why we broke these sessions up. I do hope they're helpful. If you do have additional questions, please, as I said, put them in the chat window. If you don't want to ask them, or if you think of something and you come up with it later, you can certainly get it to us at the email addresses that were covered in the Zoom invite. And you can always reach us on LinkedIn. And you can always reach out to us on Afternoons with Aces. It's a YouTube channel. And you can certainly find us on Twitter. My Twitter handle. X, my apologies, thank you. Yes, my Twitter handle is @ThomasSimkus.
@BT Lee Briggs.
All right. So there are no current questions. I know everybody's probably waiting to get to how to do an ad hoc analysis. That'll be coming up in a few weeks. Hope everyone is staying warm here in North America and the Northern Hemisphere. It is a cold, dark winter so far, but spring is not that far away. So with the advent of spring, we will probably be getting into ad hoc analysis. Talk to everybody next time.